How we doing, Devils fans? Bit of a solemn show today, but in light of the terrible news about Claude Lemieux, I kind of just wanted to put something out there. I like listening to podcasts and shows, especially ones like this that are by fans, to kind of speak the minds of fans. And I felt like something was necessary tonight to just speak my mind on Claude Lemieux and what he meant to this organization and what he meant to a Devils fan like myself at 5 years old in the mid-'90s, watching the New Jersey Devils go on and win their first Stanley Cup and what he meant to this organization, period. Before I get to that, though, we all are hearing through various news sources and how Claude Lemieux did pass away. And in light of that, if anybody listening here is feeling down, is feeling like that's a way for them to solve their problems, I urge you to please get help. Go talk to somebody. The Devils family, your own family and friends, we want you around, man. We want you to live another day. We want you to keep fighting. I think you never know what people are going through. Things look great on the surface. Could have everything you could ever dream of, from fame and money and success and a great family and everything else, but you don't know the war going on inside somebody's head and some of their other experiences that they've had. So please, 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 please get help. It's very easy. New Jersey has a lot of really great resources, from 262-HELP to just call 911, to hop in an Uber and go down to the hospital and go ask for some help in an emergency room. There's always a way. There's always a better solution. There's just always a much better way to fight and keep going and don't give up. And it's a shame with Claude. Pepe Lemieux, the legend, number 22 forever. I was only 5 years old when the Devils went on their cup run in 95. The first game I ever went to was the New Jersey Devils versus the Tampa Bay Lightning at Brendan Byrne Arena, and I remember Claude Lemieux in warm-ups. Just seeing him, because he was already one of the premier players on the team, a well-known guy my dad talked about with watching Devils games. And the Devils traded for Lemieux in 1990 for Sylvain Turgeon, and he'd go on to play with the Devils through the 95 season in his first go-around, and that was peak Claude Lemieux. Not a great regular season. He had some very good regular seasons for this team, but 95 wasn't particularly a good one, but he turned it on in the playoffs. 13 goals en route to the Devils winning their first Stanley Cup and Claude Lemieux winning the Conn Smythe. And I love that 95 video, some of the highlights with Lemieux. One of my favorites is when they're covering the Devils in the finals at that point, they're talking about the Devils bus driver. And kind of like, who's the biggest, pain in the rear end on the team? And, Claude Lemieux, because it can't be too hot, can't be too cold. And then Claude Lemieux's there. They ask him, in the locker room about it. He said, yeah, can't be too hot, can't be too cold. The music has to be perfect, all that stuff. And that was just a funny story of Claude that seemed to sum up just kind of how quirky he was off the ice. Scotty Gomez has told many, many stories of Claude Lemieux on that 2000 team, yelling at him and Brendan Morrison, calling you effing rookies and this and that. But he was a presence in the locker room, and he was a winner. He'd go on to have a second run with the Devils, acquired for Brian Ralston in the 2000 season, and I remember when they brought him back. I went to one of those games, and if you remember, when he first came back, his first few games, he still had his Colorado Avalanche gloves on, the kind of dark gray, black gloves, so it was a little odd. And I almost remember some Devils fans are a little hot and cold on whether or not bringing Claude back was a good or a bad thing. I love the guy. I was so excited to have him back when he went to Colorado and won the Cup and all that stuff with Draper. Continued to torture the Red Wings in Colorado. He started that in 95 with the Devils in the finals. I miss the guy. Wanted him back. We needed him in some of those teams in the late 90s and 97. Losing to the Rangers, would have been nice to have a guy like Claude Lemieux around. In 98 and 99, those teams that lost in the first round, would have been nice to have a guy like Claude Lemieux around. I don't think it's coincidental they went on a run in 2000 when he came back. And he'd go on to score some clutch goals for the Devils on their way to that second Stanley Cup, if you remember. My favorite being Game 6, Philadelphia Flyers, scramble in front of the net, rebound goal. Claude Lemieux owned two teams in the postseason, the Philadelphia Flyers and the Detroit Red Wings, at least in his time with New Jersey. And that might be my favorite Claude Lemieux moment. It's kind of a few rolled in together. I'd go his ability to just suck the life out of the Philadelphia Flyers in the postseason. He had the game-winning goal in the 95 Conference Finals, Game 5. Doc Emmerich on the call. It was on Fox 5, NHL Hockey on Fox. With Lemieux with a shot and he scores. Claude Lemieux with the drive. And then again, Game 6, my favorite Gary Thorne call of all time. Oh, on oh, here's Lemieux. Scores. To just keep putting the Flyers down. Devils went on to win that Game 6, and things got even better in the finals. And then Game 6 in 2000, Devils en route to making a historic comeback against the Flyers, being down 3-1 in the series. Game 6, Lemieux with the clutch goal to get the Devils on the board. Tied the series up that night, went on to win that series and go on and win the Stanley Cup. And in 2000, it was a little different. In 95, Lemieux was viewed as one of their top 6 scorers. Now, in 2000, he played a lot with Gomez and Alexander Mogilny, which was a great line. But he moved around a lot, which is what made that team so good, too, is they had so many interchangeable parts of moving guys up and down the lineup and putting Gomez on the wing with this guy and back in the middle and having Mogilny step in and fill in for Sikora in Game 6 in 2000. We know that hit from Darian Hatcher. But Lemieux moved up and down the lineup. He played a really crucial defensive role for that team. He always did. But in 2000, he wasn't the same guy he was 5-6 years earlier where he could put 30, 40 goals up in a season. He was at that point a 45, 50-point, kind of a top-9 winger, but clutch, great defensive player, ferocious competitor. I know the clip was going around today of Brendan Shanahan discussing his relationship with Claude Lemieux from that ESPN documentary on the Red Wings and Avalanche rivalry from the 90s. Now, Shanahan and Lemieux were on the Devils at the same time. Shanny was already here when Lemieux was brought over. Brendan Lemieux is named after Brendan Shanahan, mentioned in that documentary. I didn't know that prior to that his son was named after Shanahan. You know, in their first game, Lemieux played against Shanahan. Avs and Red Wings, goes up to Shanahan and says, "You're a loser. You've never won anything." And discussed how ferocious of a competitor Lemieux was. A guy that he named his son after didn't have a second thought of just eviscerating him verbally on the ice and then even more physically during the game. He's an iconic 90s hockey player. And everyone will talk about the Chris Draper hit. And yeah, unfortunately, you can't talk about Lemieux's career without bringing that up. But for us in Jersey, he was an iconic 90s style player of just tough. Great two-way player. Great defensive player. Can get through the clutching and grabbing and also knew how to clutch and grab himself. Great highlight, I think it's hilarious, is when he punched Brett Lindros in a scrum in front of the Devils bench, Devils Islanders, I think it was 95, 94, and gave Brett Lindros a punch right in the face when he was hanging over the bench. Lemieux was sitting on the bench. Brett Lindros is hanging over the boards in front of Lemieux. You see Lemieux kind of look around a little bit and give him a shot, and then it was on. It was just awesome. It was awesome having this guy on his team. It was really cool when he came back for the 95 reunion and he played in the alumni game. He was just, the man was a presence in the game. He is Timo Meyer's agent as well, so he's stuck around in the game. Came back, if you remember, after he retired. He had a run with the Coyotes and the Stars, and he retired, and he came back with the Sharks, played a few games. Hell of a career, hell of a story. And I really hope the Devils do something this year to honor him. I'm sure they'll do something. But I've talked a lot on this show. I've seen fans talk a lot about this. I feel like Lemieux is a guy why we should have a Devils Hall of Fame. I'm not entirely clear on the full criteria for the Ring of Honor, but to just honor one person a year, one player a year, there's just so many guys that deserve it in the history of this franchise. And it's just kind of sad tonight as I sit back and think about this, that the Devils never gave Claude Lemieux that kind of night. Or that kind of, we are recognizing everything you did for this franchise in the postseason especially. And we wouldn't have 2 Stanley Cups without Claude Lemieux. And maybe this is a great year to then kind of just, he's going to be in the Ring of Honor. Because he's always deserved it. His family deserves it. Obviously would be a discussion with his family first. But, I wish they'd honored this guy already. Maybe learn from this, too, as an organization of, there are a lot of guys out there still that I would love, I think many of us, to see honored in some way. Lamoriello deserves a banner, not just the Ring of Honor. He deserves a banner. Other guys like Larry Robinson, who's still around, did so much for this organization. I mean, even going down the list of other players that just gave you so much and were iconic players for this franchise. Gomez, John Madden, Langenbrunner, Bruce Driver. Guys that really deserve their due. McKay, Holik, the crash line in general. Guys that they just deserve their due. And hopefully we see more of that. And hopefully they do something to really honor Lemieux permanently at Prudential Center. I think he's always deserved it. He should have always been in that conversation for the Ring of Honor. I know he didn't have the longevity here as like a John McClain or like a Sergei Brylin. But he was incredibly impactful. He had as much of an impact on this organization as those two guys did, for sure. So in light of that, I'll sign off on this quick episode right now. Thank you for listening. I know this is a weird, kind of very depressing day for Devils fans, hockey fans in general, that were a fan of Claude Lemieux, grew up watching this guy. And again, if in light of how this all went down, if you ever need help, please look for it. Please get it. We all want you here. We all want you around. Live another day, fight another day, man. And in light of that, again, rest in peace, Claude Lemieux, number 22, forever.